This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Well, New York City Mayor Mamdani emerging as supposedly a kingmaker in yesterday's primaries. The candidates he endorsed ran and won against other Democrats. And John Fetterman, Pennsylvania Democrat, Senator John Fetterman says, "We're now entering the dancing days of the dirtbag left. Outrageous candidates." Joining us to break that down in more detail and agree, and I'm sure he will agree, Bruce Torres, Director of Communications for the American Small Business League. Bruce, glad to have you back on board.
Great to be here. How are you today?
I'm good. So with the progressives taking and winning New York City, as Fetterman says, they're replacing the good traditional kinds of Democrats you would expect in New York City. I don't see things getting any better for small business or any business in New York City.
So that's a fair assessment. We look at everything through the small business lens, and New York City is a unique laboratory where so much big money interests and powers play everything against the middle. Like, where'd Mamdani come from? Pretty much out of the blue. Rather than think of him as a kingmaker, that might be a handy hook for the Washington Post and others to give him the credit for these victories. And when one looks at the Democratic Socialists of America, I went to their site a week or two ago. They're not a very robust organization, and yet these candidates are bragging about its endorsement. And any big picture, understanding of politics in America over the last 100 years does see how the battles over socialism, even putting it forward as something to argue about, is a ploy. It's a psyop because it's just horrible in its implementation. Look at the countries that have corroded and failed when they overindulge, socialism and communism. It's bottom line, Larry, it's got very little to do with freedom. It's got very little to do with a city government or a state government or the federal government reflecting the will of the people.
And they're being amplified. Their voice gets bigger and repeated more by the legacy media. But go ahead and finish your thought, first of all, about how this country is going upside down by the leftists. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not saying it's the leftists. I'm saying it's going upside down because of the manipulation by the giant corporate banking moneyed elite of the elite control for the last 150 years at the least. I see right and left, Republicans, Democrats as theatrical companies funded really at the top by the same rich who always want to exploit the poor and keep freedom at bay and pretend that we are living according to our ideals. So I have no illusions that we're America anymore. We don't live under the Constitution, and that's a whole other conversation about what it would take to get our rights back. But we love the fact that we are a small business nation. Questions about what I just said, or a little promo about our group?
Yeah, I want Small Business League. Obviously, small businesses are driving the engine of our nation's economy. But there's so many regs being placed on them and additional taxes. What are you able to do to help protect small business?
Right. Well, that's a question that ought to be front and center when anyone talks about business, the economy, jobs, the cost of living. Thank you. Because, deep breath, we are nothing but a small business nation. 36 million small businesses. 99.9% of all businesses in America are small businesses. By the bad definition of less than 500 employees. A better definition is less than 100. 98% of all businesses have less than 100 employees. And I encourage folks to go to our site, ASBL.com, and our Substack, ASBL.Substack, for something very important. We've got a pinned article at the top that gives people a website where they can quickly find how to contact their representative and their senators about anything that's bothering them, and we all should. GovTrack.com.
All right, now you want. I want to go down some points here with you. I know you want small business contracts to not continue to go to big business, give the small groups an opportunity, and you want to see a raise of federal contracts from 5 to 15% for federal dollars. It should go to women-owned small business. In fact, you point out women own 40% of these businesses in America.
Yes, thank you. And that pinned Substack explains things to support that. Not only do women own 40% of all businesses in America, Larry, they sell what the government buys. And yet, every single year, companies owned by men get more than 95% of all federal contract dollars, when the goal is to give them 5%. The government rarely ever hits that. We really think every year women companies only get around 1%. But worse is that every year we're told small businesses got more than the 23% goal of the federal contract dollars. No, we show, ASBL.com, that in reality, the vast majority of federal contract dollars go to the 0.1% of companies that are big businesses. They're already big. They create no new jobs with those contracts. Whereas if real small businesses got the contracts we're told that they get, hundreds of thousands, maybe an extra 2 million jobs would be created every year, on top of all the jobs that get created every year by small businesses anyway. The vast majority of jobs every year are created by small businesses, and they are woefully neglected by the federal government for all the theatrics and false claims of how any administration is serving small businesses. Both Republicans and Democrats fail miserably.
I think your points are well made. I think a lot of the audience would agree with you on much of this. All right, now back to the beginning of our conversation. Is Democrat socialist movement? I hear what you're saying about Republicans also they've got their hands in the way as well sometimes and not doing what they should be doing. But how does a Democrat socialist government like in New York City help small business or the nation as a whole?
We see not at all. We see that it's to lure, destabilize, weaken, train generations of young people to want free stuff. And that's appealing because many generations have been so miserably prepared for life through school and other social degradations and cultural distractions that there's an epidemic of helplessness and despair. So if a candidate stands up there and says free buses, cheap food, free daycare, that's very appealing to, unfortunately, crippled young people and also mushified, educated people who have been trained to hate an enemy, perhaps hardworking people, business owners. It's a firestorm and a hurricane of obfuscations to make us all hate each other and feel like a victim. And to parse these things, we really have to calm down and do a lot more thinking about what we want. And I steer people to the ideals of the American founding, because we have to relearn a better relationship to government and how it's supposed to work for us.
All right, Bruce, I want to thank you. We're out of time. Director of Communications for the American Small Business League. Again, check out their website, ASBL.com. ASBL.com. Bruce, again, I thank you for your time. We'll have you back in the future.
Love to. Thank you.
You bet.